Hi friends! I apologize in advance for the coming portion of this video, which is the video itself, because I was chewing gum and I anxiously chew gum sometimes, and this is one of those times. So very sorry in advance. This is not how you should give a presentation or film anything, but it's really too late for me to film this again. So deal with it for now, and maybe I will reshoot this in a couple of months. Okay, hopefully this new setup goes a little bit better in my very non-aesthetic home office. But we have a mic, we're getting a little set up, a little more professional, and it's all to discuss LinkedIn. I am not a LinkedIn guru. This is not some like hack your LinkedIn profile to get a job at Facebook or something like that. That's not what this is. And honestly, it's a little bit more of a do as I say, not as I do type situation, because I'm very happily employed to the point of not even wanting to be a passive candidate, and I'm not a LinkedIn influencer, so I don't really care if my LinkedIn is perfect. If you are trying to find a job as an active candidate or even as a passive candidate, it's really important that you have a good, robust LinkedIn profile. And for all my Zoomers out there, I know LinkedIn is kind of ugly, it's kind of cumbersome. I don't really like using it. I have a love-hate relationship with it. However, it's estimated that over 87% of recruiters use LinkedIn in some capacity to find candidates. So LinkedIn is not going away anytime soon. You need to have a good presence on there, even if you're not building a personal brand or trying to be some professional influencer. It's still very important for you to have a well thought out, curated LinkedIn profile that exemplifies who you are, and you can use that time and space to go outside of what you can do in a resume, because even if you are submitting a resume to a company, it is likely that they are going to check your LinkedIn profile at some point in the stage. So stand out, be unique, and use this tool to your advantage. The first thing you need to do is make sure you have a nice professional headshot, just a profile picture. This does not have to be something you spend any money on. This does not have to be done by a professional photographer. Mine is one that I have my partner take with my phone, and just luckily we have a very plain background. So it doesn't have to be this big, expensive venture for you to have a nice profile shot. It needs to not be an obvious selfie, no mirror selfies, no pictures of you partying, no pictures of you with groups. It needs to just be you. You know, shirts and shoes are not optional when you're taking this photo. You really need to dress well, feel well when you take it. Try to take the photo with a neutral background, or if you have a background that's really relevant to your industry, let's say you're an engineer and you're out in the field and you have all this machinery behind you, you can have something like that behind you but blurred out, or blurred out nature also works as well. Just make sure that it's kind of a neutral background in the sense that you stand out and are crisp and clear in the photo. A piece of advice from LinkedIn actually is that your face, this part of you, this headshot part of you, takes up about 60% of the image. So you really need to be the focal point of the image. But again, don't have to spend any money on it. A little bit of advice if you are a new grad or undergrad, whatever, you're trying to find a job and you're in that realm, try not to make the photo very obviously a graduation photo. There can be some age bias involved in recruitment, and you may not want that. So I know grad photos can be so beautiful, so great. I loved mine. However, don't make it very obvious that it's a graduation photo. Try to find something a little more neutral. The second little piece of advice is for that 220 character little line that goes underneath your name in LinkedIn, and that is your headline. A lot of people just put their job title in the headline, and it's okay to put your job title in the headline. That's what you do. Maybe that's what you're interested in, but you need to spice it up just a little bit. So you have 220 characters. Use them to showcase your personality in a really impactful, quick, punchy way. Of course, it can just be phrases, CEO, HR consultant, a string of phrases, or you can have a little sentence that really showcases a bit about you. I really like JLo's. This is my favorite example of a good, catchy headline. Maybe you're not JLo, you don't have all of this put in there, but the point is that you want to be using keywords that really describe you. They describe your work, your interests, your professional self, so that when a recruiter searches for an analyst, you're not one in 3,000. You have other keywords in there that are really going to pop against this crowd of other analysts. The third section that I really like to talk about is the About section. This is a space for you to showcase not only what you're interested in professionally, but also a bit about you personally. And it's okay to get personal in here. I mean, keep it safe for work. It's got to be stuff that you're okay with a potential employer knowing about you, but it doesn't just have to be about work. This space is for you to really talk about how you show up in the world professionally and personally. You can talk about a little bit about your work experience, kind of summarize that, what your professional objectives are, where you're wanting to go in your career, what really kind of lights up your brain and gets you excited. You could talk about what your strengths are. And of course, you can also, as I mentioned, talk about just what you like to do, things that make you happy in life. So don't be afraid to get a little bit personal here. If you're somebody who just wants to keep it professional, that's totally fine. But again, this is for you. This is about you, who you are. And the way you show up at work and the way you show up in your personal life are going to overlap. And this is a great place to really be uniquely you. There are 2,000 characters that you can put in here. Be mindful that the first few lines are the ones that are going to stand out the most on the profile before you have to click more and read more. So make that punchy and impactful, and maybe get your big professional objective goals in there, the statement that's going to hook somebody the most and make them want to read more. And then from there, you can go on a little bit more about yourself. And in the About section, just like in the headline and just like we'll talk about in work experience, you want to use keywords. Keywords are those words that are very relevant to a specific industry, career, topic. Because we're talking about LinkedIn, the topic is your career or your job. So keywords need to be sprinkled throughout your profile, and the About section is just as important as using those keywords in the work experience section. The more keywords you have that are relevant to the industry you're trying to go into, your interests, the more likely you are to appear in different searches on LinkedIn. And it's also going to key mentally to a recruiter, whoever's looking at your profile, what type of worker you are, what you're interested in, what your skills are. This is the place to pump as many relevant keywords in as possible. Don't use buzzwords. Buzzwords are overused, vague ways to describe your skills or your personality. Be as detailed as possible and not so vague. One thing that I see a lot is the use of third person. So that's referring to somebody, he, she, and their name, in their own profile, in their own About section. If you're C-suite or you are a co-founder of a major company, maybe you can get away with it. I personally think that everybody should be using I statements, so first person in their About section. If it's good enough for Sarah Blakely, it's good enough for you. I think this is very impactful because it makes it feel more personal and that you are actually involved in taking ownership of your own work history. Now, again, after you've gotten to a certain point in your career and your professional life, maybe you don't need to worry about that so much, and it doesn't seem as odd to use a third person. But unless you are really high up there in a company, I would suggest just using first person. I did that. This is my work. I'm interested in this. I like this. Own it. The fourth section should not come as a surprise, and that's your work experience. If you were to go look at my LinkedIn right now, my work experience is not completely filled out. Which, again, do as I say, not as I do. Work experience is very similar to what you would see on a standard resume, but with LinkedIn, you can add so much more than you could on a standard resume. On a static resume, you have to worry about space, and you need to condense everything as much as possible, but in the most impactful way possible, which can be really tough. With LinkedIn, you don't have to do that. Of course, don't write a novel about your job, but you can add in more details than you would with a standard resume. Each work experience point should have a 3 to 5 sentence summary, and then 3 to 5 very strong detailed bullet points describing projects or impacts that you made at the company. Try to be as quantitative as possible, like have these statements be as quantitative as possible. So that just means using numbers, showing strong facts essentially about what you did, so it doesn't seem as vague. I don't think that that is possible for all jobs. If you are in sales, it's going to be much easier for you to have quantitative statements about your work, but if you're in something that's not as related to numbers, this could be difficult for you. I'm not going to lie, it's sometimes difficult for me, but try to throw in at least 2 quantitative statements in the 3 to 5 bullet points. I promise you can find them. This is also the place to use not buzzword. I just said buzzword. This is also the place to use keywords, and keywords are going to help you showcase some of the skills that you learned in those jobs, as well as anything just related to the industry that may not. When you're doing the 3 to 5 sentence summary or the bullet points, do your best to not make it a laundry list of tasks or just standard responsibilities that you had in the position. Really do your best to thoughtfully explain some of the work that you did. When you're writing it out, think about this. What did you do? How did you do it? What tools did you use? How many people did you impact with that project or in that time of working there? What was the impact on the client or the company or the team? Ask yourself those questions as you're going through, and it will help you formulate some bullet points. Of course, you can add your education. I'm doing that because it's supposed to be 5. You can add your education to LinkedIn. As I've mentioned in the profile photo, age bias can be a problem. If you are going to put your education, I would suggest not putting your graduation date if that's something that you are concerned about. But again, if you're not concerned about it, then go ahead and add it. You do have that space, add in your education, and if you were involved with any organizations at your school, you can pop that in as well. This is really useful, of course, for connecting with other alumni, for seeing how many alumni at your school work at a certain location. This will show up on LinkedIn if it's added into your education, and it's a great way for you to build your network if that's one of your objectives. Skills. I don't know if I'm numbering these anymore, but this would be number 6, skills. On LinkedIn, you can add up to 50 skills to kind of go wild. First note, don't lie about any skills you have. There's a huge difference between understanding what transferable skills are and being able to market yourself for a future job and lying. So I don't want to advocate for that. We at Dodo Hire don't want to advocate for that, but add all of the skills that are applicable to you and any work that you've done. You can add hard skills. I don't know if that's the term anymore. So the more technical skills, skills that you learn, you can get certificates for, you can be tested on. You can even take those little LinkedIn quizzes on some of those skills. And you can also add soft skills, so more of those interpersonal skills, communication, people management, things like that. So you can add a wide array of skills, add as many as you can that you think fit, and continue to update and change those as you evolve as a professional. Do your best to go through and find some of the key functional skills that are really related to the industry you're trying to go into or a particular job of interest to you, because again, this is a search parameter for recruiters. If you need any help on figuring out what skills you have, if you can't really put a name to it, or you are trying to find out what skills are needed for a particular job, go through and look at different job descriptions. They will tell you what skills are required, and that can be a basis for you to build this aspect of your profile off of. A very, very special skill is knowing another language, and there's actually a section for that. It's actually so important that it's its own section within LinkedIn, and I want to talk about languages in depth just a little bit because languages can be listed as a skill and you can list your level of knowledge, but you can take it a step further. If you are fluent, professionally fluent in a language, you don't have to be, native speaker, but if you are comfortable reading and writing in another language and you've listed that as a language skill in LinkedIn, you can also write your profile in more than one language. So you can have your profile, let's say, in English, or you can have it in Spanish. The following items are just a few little extras. These are just nice to have for the profile, but they are by no means necessary for you to be a great passive or active candidate on the platform. One thing you can do is set a custom URL. This is particularly useful for those of y'all that want to really market yourselves in a specific sphere, or you just don't want that long, weird number, letters, string at the end. But this way, it's easier to say, it's easier to give to people, it's easier to put on a resume, it's prettier, and it's just one little small detail to make it look like you put in some effort to your profile. Under the About section, there is a section called Featured, and this is where you can put any documents that you want to feature. You can put a resume here, you can put any studies you've been involved in, you can put any special certificates, although now that is its own section. You can use this as a place to showcase any projects that you've done and have that pop right there for somebody to check out. If you're somebody who posts on LinkedIn regularly, this is also a space for you to really highlight any posts that you think are going to catch the eye of a recruiter or somebody in your network. If you're like me and you have a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn, just put in a little bit of effort, especially if you are looking for a job now where you want to be considered as a passive candidate. It's just like the real world. You know, you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know who is going to come across your LinkedIn profile, who's going to see it. So you want to put your best foot forward in advance. Thanks for joining me for another Dodo Hire video. I really hope that you learned something new, and if you didn't, stay tuned. Maybe you'll learn something new in another video. If you have any questions that you want answered that you're curious about, either drop a comment down below if you're on YouTube, or send an email to info@dodohire.com or even ceo@dodohire.com. You can just email me directly, that's fine. If you are interested in more short form content, or you want to stay up to date on what's happening at Dodo Hire, then you can follow us on Instagram or TikTok. And of course, you can DM us there. If you have questions and you just want to DM us, you can do that too. You can also chat with us anytime in our Discord. The link is below in the YouTube description. We have different channels there. We're always open to talking about anything career development related.